Hey guys, what's up? So in this one, we're going to be covering the Vishnu Guild boss for P5X Global version 2.2. This is week 1. So the team we're going to be running here is Wonder first, Key second, Marian third, On 4, and Pheobe as our Navi. Obviously, there's like a ton of slot-ins you can make. This is kind of a good week for if you don't have some of the units to slot in, because everyone kind of works sort of independently of one another. What I mean by that is, like, if you don't have Marian and you wanted to go ahead and use Lufel, that's what I would suggest. And if you don't have Pheobe and you want to use Okyann, that's also what I suggest. It really has no effect on what anyone else is doing. Like, any one unit changing on this team really has no effect outside of if you like swap Cord for Key. But I think Key's kind of critical here to apply burn, because On kind of just wants everyone burned all the time, and Key's just most effective at doing that. But if you swap Lufel for Marian, the only thing that changes is Lufel or Marian, and their rotations, or same thing with Okyann and Pheobe. On is still going to do the exact same thing regardless. Key's going to do the same thing regardless. It does change one interaction between Key and Lufel for on turn 1, but I'll explain that when we get in the fight. But this team here is perfectly fine. I'm just running kind of what I think is like my max effort team. That's the same reason I'm using, shout out to Maddie in our guild, his A6 on, because I'm a little bit shorter on time, kind of over the duration of this patch. So I'm kind of mixing my actual run for our guild with the video, because the rotation's the same, so it doesn't really make much of a difference. If I used an A0 on or an A6 on, doesn't matter. So the rotation's going to be the same. But if you're wondering, why your score is lower than mine, it's probably just a combination of, the A6 on, the Marian, whatever, Pheobe. But the rotation's the exact same. It's just going to be kind of how much extra score you're getting from each of those factors, piled on top of each other. As for Wonder, he's going to be using Ex Machina, and I will be running Baphomet, Dionysus. I was trying something with Cert on like one of the turns, but it ends up messing up the Dionysus highlight, so I don't think it matters who you bring third. I'm just going to go ahead and use these two guys here. So if you want to bring, I'll probably swatch this to Janosik, actually, just to bring a higher level persona. But yeah, speaking of personas, we'll just hop into the persona section. So Baphomet's kind of my go-to fire unit because of his passive. After he deals skill damage to a burning foe, he increases all foes' fire damage 26%, foes' fire damage taken by 26% for one turn. So everyone on this, on this team, the enemy's basically always burned. This will always be proccing. So Dionysus for this one, I'm actually going to be using all 3 of these buff skills on Dionysus in this fight. So Rebellion and Torokaja, you will have to put on him. Or I guess if you want to use your third slot and you have Rebellion on someone else, that could work too. It's not as effective as Dionysus because of his passive. He gives the additional kind of, crit damage up. But, you could slot that in and make it work. But we will be using Revolution, Rebellion, and Torokaja with him. And then I just learned just now that you can't view this screen on assist units. I didn't know that. Or at least if you can, I'm dumb and I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I assume Maddie's running kind of the exact same thing as me, just a much better on. But I'm running Acceptance and Strife. He is running Departure and Control. And I'm just now realizing I should probably level up my Key's weapon and probably him too at some point. Marian is running Trust and Prosperity. And then Pheobe is running Integrity and Labor. Yeah, I don't think I have too much else to say on this one. Like I said, Lufel over Marian if you don't have Marian. Okyann over Pheobe if you don't have Pheobe. And then any awareness, whatever. But yeah, I think that's all I got. So yeah, I'll see you on the other side. Alright, so we are going to start off by swapping to Dionysus and using Rebellion on. Then we're going to get into a little bit of like manipulation that we're going to do here. So On has these passion stacks, and when she gets 4 passion stacks, she gets Lavi and Rose. And when she has Lavi and Rose, her skills and stuff do more damage, etc. But so you really want to pair On skill 3 up with when she has Lavi and Rose, because that'll be like kind of her max damage output. But the problem is, especially this is more of an issue if you have Lufel, because Lufel can give like burn to someone at the start of the fight, right? I think if you've watched any of my past videos with this team, like we've reset even sometimes to get that to happen so that we could use Key's Ring of Fire, turn it into an AoE and give everyone burn right off the top. We're kind of doing the opposite here. Like we want to like not really hit anybody on this first turn so that we don't trigger Lavi and Rose here. And you can't get it on consecutive turns, so you're then locked into kind of an every other turn rotation. And the reason that matters on this first turn is because it's a 0.5 mult turn. So if you got it on this first turn, you'd be using her skill 3 with the Lavi and Rose buff on the 0.5 scoring turn, the 1.5 scoring turn, and a 2 times scoring turn. If we wait till next turn, you'll be getting a 1 times turn and then 2 times turns. Plus, you get more buffs if you wait too, and it's not super hard to do, and on this first turn, you really aren't scoring much regardless because of the half scoring. So it's not a huge deal. So we're just going to go ahead and use Key skill 1. There's no danger. But if Lufel had given burn to someone, you just want to make sure with Key that you're not using his skill 1 on that person, because it will turn to AoE and then give her the passion stacks. So, and then we'll go ahead and use skill 2 on from Marian. And then there is a bit of RNG coming up on their actions where On can get crit. We want to highlight next turn with On, so that we can get our highlight again for the last turn. And the only way to do that is if she doesn't get crit. So if you see me come back, I'll mention it if I did reset. So I'll mention it though if that happens. But for now, we're going to go ahead and use her skill 1. Alright, so I'm back. As you could probably see in the footage, I got crit. I think the score is a little bit different, but only thing that changed is I basically just did the run 2 more times until I didn't get crit. It's pretty quick. It takes like 2 minutes. It's not necessary. Like, if you get crit, I wouldn't worry about it. I would maybe just like swap to, you know, one of your other units and use like a wonder highlight or something. So it took me like 2 or 3 times, like I mentioned. It seems like 50-50 if she gets crit, and it's only that 1 turn. But I'm going to go ahead with Pheobe now, and I'm going to use her skill 2 on. And then I'm actually going to wait 1 turn. We have like 1 turn that we can wait to, you know, still make sure we get On's highlight on the final turn of the fight. So I'm going to go ahead and use Baphomet's Red Hot. We'll get this fire damage up. And then now we'll go ahead and use On's highlight. And now we don't have to worry about the whole thing with Key. So we can go ahead and apply burn to everybody, and we'll start kind of our normal Key, you know, rotation of keeping burn on everybody and then mixing in his skill 2. Marian will go ahead and use skill 3. Again, if you have Lufel, just like, you're pretty much just going to heal with Lufel the entire fight. Skill 3 on every turn, basically, except maybe the last turn if you want to. And then, as always, my Pheobe does have her weapon, so she gets her, she's able to, like, act a little bit quicker, so I'll be able to use my skill 3 here. If you can't, don't worry about it, just, like, skill 3 the next time Phoebe's up. Like I always kind of say, is, like, if you don't really understand, you know, when you should use stuff on Pheobe, if you have the 2 premium stacks of the cocktail, probably a pretty safe bet to go ahead and just use the skill 3 on whatever your main damage dealer is. You know, general use of Pheobe. And then we'll go ahead and skill 3. Alright, so here's where things start to get a little bit weird. So I did mention before the fight started that we're not going to be using Red Hot every other turn because it kind of messes with, like, Rebellion, and we want to use Red Hot on the last turn. So I'm actually going to go ahead and use Tarukaja right now. The reason being that we're not using, say, Revolution is because if we use Revolution now, it'll fall off before the last turn. Whereas if we use Tarukaja now and then Rebellion and then Revolution, we'll have all 3 buffs for the last turn when On's going to highlight and use her last skill 3. So is this optimal? I don't know, but this is kind of like the best way I've, you know, been able to do it on my end. I'm sure there's something better, but this is just kind of what I've landed on. And then I'm pretty sure everyone here only has like 1 burn turn left, like across the board. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just Ring of Fire again, because keeping burn on for On is like more important than using the skill 2 with Leon, if that makes any sense. So it just helps On a lot more. Phoebe will skill 2, or Phoebe, Marian will skill 2. And then another part of the reason that we used Tarukaja on Dionysus last turn is so that we have his highlight available to use this turn. So we're going to go ahead and use this. And then we'll go ahead and we'll use on skill 1. Wonders back up, so now we'll reapply Rebellion on, so this should carry us through the rest of the fight. And now we are actually going to go ahead and we'll use Key's skill 2 here. It's a shame this guy doesn't have burn, I don't think, but we're going to be using Key's highlight next turn, so you know he'll reapply burn to everybody, so we don't have to worry about it for On. Phoebe's back up. I have 2 stacks again, so I'll go ahead and use the skill 3 again. If you don't have 2 stacks, go ahead and just use her skill 2. If you don't have her and you're using Okyann, just skill 3, skill 1 kind of on cooldown, that rotation. Marian will go ahead and use skill 3. On has her Lavia and Rose, so we'll go ahead and use the skill 3. And then we'll use Revolution, and that'll complete kind of our trio of buffs that we're going to put on. Now, Key is up, so we're going to use Key's highlight. This will, like, reapply burn to everyone and fire damage taken up, which is nice. And then because they just got burn reapplied, we can just use Crimson Summon again. It tends to do more damage, so I like to use it when I can, when burn's not, like, at risk of falling off. Then Marian will go ahead and use her skill 2. On his back up, we'll use Crimson Rose. Alright, and now we have our final turn, so we'll swap back to Baphomet and use Red Hot. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use it just on him. Reapply this burn. I don't know why that fell off. It should still be on. He should have... Everyone else has burn. I don't know why. Whatever. Maybe I miscounted the turns, but it should be fine. And then I'll go ahead and use Crimson Summon again, because, again, this will be our last turn. They all have burn, so we're fine. If not everybody has burn here, then maybe you can go ahead and use skill 1 for Key, and just make sure that everyone does have burn. Phoebe's skill 3. On again. Then I'll go ahead and use Marian's skill 3. Now I'll go ahead and use On's highlight. And then we'll finish it off with one last Falling Sun. We'll hope for the best. Get a little bit of burn damage. And 45,682. So new record for me, so I'm pretty happy with this. Again, if you don't have, obviously an A6 on or Marian or Pheobe, you'll probably do less. Like I said, with the Lufel Okyann team, I was running like 24-ish, 25, 26. I forget what I ran it a couple of times. Maybe if you wanted to, you could try Cord instead of Key here. I don't know how that would work just because you're losing a lot on like the burns and stuff. But maybe if you can find an efficient way for Wonder to apply burn to everybody, that could be like an interesting strategy to go down. So I think it's up to you. Give it a shot. Like I said, feels weird not using Cord at all this week, but I don't know. I just felt like she didn't slot in great anywhere. And you know what? It's nice to like not have to rely on Cord. For once. You can borrow a different unit. Like if you don't have Joker or you don't have a good on, go ahead and maybe try and borrow the best one you can from your guild. But yeah, I hope this was somewhat useful. Like I said, like if you don't have these units, don't worry about it. Slot-ins are pretty easy this week. Any awareness on, my Key is not super well built. So it's not like a super high investment team. It's like a standard. It's mostly, you can get through this with all 4 stars and standard 5 stars. But yeah, this is what I came up with. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions, obviously just leave them down below for me. And I will start kind of prepping for the SOS bosses in the next couple of days, hopefully. And yeah, I appreciate you guys watching, as always, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one.